Hello everyone and welcome to the series of peace webinars. Today's speaker will be Professor Asalm Kahan. He is an associate professor in the Department of Gandhian and Peace Studies, Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Bhihar, India. Prior to this, he served as Professor of International Relations and Dean, Faculty of Social and Management Sciences, Job State University, Nigeria. He also served as visiting professor at University of Maiduguri, Nigeria, and he has been very actively engaged in his research in pursuits concerning African politics, US and South Asia, Indo-Pacific, peace and conflict studies, and nuclear issues. And today's theme will be religious fundamentalism in South Asia, threat to peace and security. Please turn your Microsoft off in order to let Professor Khan give his presentation. And thank you again, Professor and participants, for your today's presence in this webinar.
Well, thank you very much, and peace greetings to all of you from India. Namaste and greetings to each and everyone. Let me know how much time I have for this presentation. How much time?
You have about 40 minutes, and then we can move to the question and answers space.
I can see some of my senior colleagues here. Professor Janet is there. Professor Lester is there. So my greetings to each and everyone. So today, I am also thankful to the organization Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa for providing me the opportunity to interact with you people. The topic of my presentation today is the religious fundamentalism in South Asia, threat to peace and security. So when we discuss of any kind of fundamentalism or religious fundamentalism, then we find that religion has been the most important discourse in the human civilization. The European wars that we call the Wars of Reformation that were waged in the 16th, 17th and the earlier 18th century. And later on, at the same time, we can see the rise of Ottoman Empire, the Mughals are the other examples, who took religion as a, as a weapon with them. So let me shed some light, some scholarly work regarding this fundamentalism. I recall here Stuart Sim, he writes The Fundamentalist World. So one of the legacies of the Second World War was the displacement of the primacy of religious hatred with ideological contempt. So now, inexorably, ideology has become religious. And it has happened so many times before in the history of human civilization, I can say. And 2.5 decades ago, the French philosopher Jean Francois influenced a generation when he declared that the days of grand narratives were over. So fundamentalism can move to several forms. It can be ideological, it can be religious, it can be political, it can be economical, social, and the most common component is to believe the sacred text from various religions present. So it is religious fundamentalism. It can be Christian, Muslim, Jews, Buddhist, and Hindu. So the worldwide revival of the religious fundamentalism is at once surprising and predictable. After decades of secularism, of concerted attempts to separate religion and politics, of soaring materialism and crumbling ideologies, it is the old varieties of religious belief that appear to be defining, if not driving, so national and international politics. And the need to let me recall here Samuel Huntington. In his seminal work, he talked about the clash of civilizations that was released in 1993. He claimed that the fault lines between civilizations will be battle lines of the future. So what we are seeing in the present world, this religious fundamentalism is not limited to the developing world. It is also very much visible in the developed world. We can see this kind of the realization in USA even, and the other because you see the last elections in France and Canada and several places. So this fundamentalism is again gaining a movement, and South Asia, since my focus is on South Asia here, so South Asia has a home of different cultures, languages and identities and civilizations, and among them Hindus and Muslims represent two different faiths as the Hinduism and Islam. So the religious practices too are contrary to each other, as idol worship is an important component of Hinduism and Islam established against the idol worship. So interestingly, South Asia consists the largest population of Hindus as well as the Muslims in the world. And India is consisting the largest population of the Muslims when we compare to the whole world. So, but some historical happenings have serious implications, not only the socio-economic interest of the people, but also impacts the political actions of the state. So the religious fundamentalism has plagued the region with uncertainty, and the actions of several radical groups and use of violence and hatred have serious implications for peace and security. So for that matter, these are so many reasons, like foreign invaders and rulers in South Asia, either Mughal or the colonial powers, those enter into the region. And those powers actually, they also came up with religious goals, and they also sow the seeds of religious fundamentalism when they ruled. So the presently Hindu fundamentalist organizations are taking excuse of the same while polarizing against the minorities, that the Mughals came here or the other Muslim rulers came here, they did this and that. And by that kind of literature, they are just mobilizing the people against the minorities here. So this is the one excuse. And when we talk of all these things, when we are living in a kind of a state-centered system, where political system becomes a very important component. And political system is generally manifested through the actions, policy programs, and operational aspect of the government, political parties, pressure groups, and the public. And the establishment, existence, and achievements of a state depend upon a political culture which is civic, liberal, and representative. When we talk of the South Asia, while India has established democratic institutions of governance and a system of democratic values after getting independence under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, and when Nehru became the prime minister, then they preferred and they tried to strengthen the democratic institutions. Same was the case with the Pakistan at the earlier stage, but Pakistan seems to have lost the opportunity to embark on a democratic project, owing primarily to the stern nature of their polity, institutions, and more seriously, the swing towards the religious fundamentalism. The religious fundamentalism and its misuse for petty political games. These are some of my assumptions of religious fundamentalism. That religious fundamentalism and its misuse for petty political games by governmental and non-governmental bodies in South Asia have resulted in a chaotic situation, and which would have a dangerous implications for South Asia. The second is the majority of political parties and some of the intelligentsia have deliberately or undeliberately have been indulged with the religiously driven design in South Asia, and now there seems to be no return situation vis-a-vis religious fundamentalism. So these are the two main assumptions of this lecture. And what are the causes of religious fundamentalism here? When we discuss the causes of religious fundamentalism, the religious fundamentalism in South Asia has persisted due to the following reasons. Number one, failure on the part of political parties to avoid political use of religion. Number two, failure on the part of the government to check upon the religious fundamentalism and political use of religion by different agencies, including the ruling governments. And the constitutional legitimization of religion in case of Pakistan, for example. The cultural backlash, the narrative of we versus they. This is very important in South Asian context. When we see the religious fundamentalism, this is the most important discourse, we versus they. Then the other factors such as ideology, I told earlier, the Mughal rule of nearly 300 years in the medieval period, right from 1526 to 1857. The British policy of divide and rule, Muslim League, Hindu Mahasabha, partition of India, Kashmir conflict, war and terror in Afghanistan, and its consequences to Pakistan and India, the rise of extremist and sectarian forces, means the polarization of the political parties along regional lines and the dilution of the secular politics and the rise of an exclusive religion-driven politics. So when we take Pakistan as a case, for example, in South Asia, we are having major countries like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, then some small countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and the Maldives. So these are the major countries who are badly impacted by religious fundamentalism. I take here a case of Pakistan, for instance, that over the years, there has been the strong resistance to democratic political culture in Pakistan. And it is also very important to mention here that the revolution of Imam Khomeini turned down the government led by the Shah of Iran. As a result, the political culture of the Iran underwent massive transformation. In the case of Pakistan, since it has shifted towards the Islamization under the pressure of the public and the politically motivated measures of the government. So moreover, the crisis created by the Aswad Soviet Union in Afghanistan also provided an opportunity to the people and the government of Pakistan to resort to the use of religion for political gains and strategy. And after a Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan, Pakistan used the same jihadists in Kashmir region of India, which strengthened radical religious propensity in the society and politics of Pakistan. And the crux of the problem started when exclusive religion-driven politics took over the dilution of the secular state as envisioned by Jinnah, which was grounded in one of his statements delivered on 11 August 1947 in a presidential address before the Constituent Assembly. I quote here, if you are free to go to your temples, you are free to go to your mosque or to any other place of worship in the state of Pakistan. This was the statement made by Jinnah in Constituent Assembly. And you may belong to any religion or caste or creed that has nothing to do with the business of the state. We are starting with this fundamental principle that we are all citizens and equal citizens of one state. Now, I think we should keep that in front of us as our ideal land. You will find that in the course of time, Hindus would cease to be Hindus and Muslims would cease to be Muslims. Not in the religious sense, because that is the personal faith of each individual, but in the political sense as a citizen of the state. But after a year, unquote, after a year of Jinnah's death, the Constituent Assembly adopted the objects resolution, which stated again, I quote, whereas sovereignty over the entire universe belongs to the God Almighty alone, and the authority which has delegated to the state of Pakistan through its people for being exercised with the limits prescribed by him as a sacred trust, wherein the principle of the democracy, freedom, equality, tolerance, and social justice as enunciated by Islam shall be fully observed, wherein the Muslims shall be enabled to order their lives in the individual and collective spheres in accord with the teaching and requirements of the Islam as set out in the Holy Quran and Sunnah. So this resolution actually outlines a preamble to every constitution Pakistan has had, and it is clearly revert to Jinnah's secular vision of the country as expressed in the historic speech I mentioned before to the Constituent Assembly. And it empowered the Islamists and reinforcing their claim to be the custodians of Pakistan as an Islamic state. But religious radicalism remained a tangential force in the Pakistan's politics until 1970. However, some internal as well as external factors such as 1971 war and liberation of Bangladesh, the deteriorating relation with the USA compelled then Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto to play Islamic card to prevent ethnic disunity, the appeasement of the religious right, and most importantly, bring Pakistan more closely to the Saudi Arabia, which led to the empowerment of radical Islamic groups in Pakistan. And very importantly here, that the 1971 defeat of Pakistan brought radical changes in Pakistan politics. As a result, Pakistan tended to reaffirm Islam as a national source of salvation during 1970s to 1980s. And the Islamists recognized this opportunity and pointed out that the Eastern Pakistan was lost because the leadership in Pakistan betrayed the cause of Islam. So this blame was on the leadership came because they didn't follow the rituals of the Islam, the teaching of the Islam. That's why this was happened. So the Pakistani leadership blamed for the un-Islamic policies and conduct. And moreover, this was capitalized by General Ziaul Haq, who came to the power after toppling Bhutto regime in 1977 and ruled under martial law till 1985. So in Zia's regime, Pakistan experimented with a new policy approach, bringing the country's law into the conformity with Sharia. And this Ziaul Haq regime in public gatherings, glorifying the Islamist cause, declaring that Pakistan was built in the name of Islam, and anyone who identified themselves as Pakistani was duty bound to rescue the nation. So at the same point, Pakistan's ties with the United States were increasingly strengthened due to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. As funds and supplies slipped over the Afghan border for the war effort, and the aid had been set at nearly $300 million over the 5 years, and that bolstering Pakistan's security and reducing the military imbalance vis-a-vis India. So this was a time when Pakistan emerged as a frontline state fighting as America's proxy in the war to contain this communism in Afghanistan. So this era was a boost and defining movement for religious fundamentalism, as both USA and Pakistan created and funded Mujahideen and other jihadi outfits against the Soviet Union. And later on, these same jihadi groups were used against India and Kashmir, which led to an unhealthy relationship between India and Pakistan, as it was a direct threat to the India's national interest and peace and security. So the support of Pakistan to the jihadi elements continued in Afghanistan, and Taliban came to the power after defeating Northern Alliance in 1996. But again, another important event happens here. The 9/11 attacks on US changed the course of Pakistan politics and put Pakistan in a state of dilemma when President George Bush II gave difficult choice to General Musharraf: you are with us or with the terrorists. So Pakistan selected to fight American war, and Pakistan took U-turns its Afghanistan policy and forced to leave its long-standing search for strategic depth in Afghanistan. For that, Pakistan is paying heavy domestic price and terming as almost a failed state, as Pakistan was compelled to fight his own creations. On the other hand, America's Afghan Pak policy has totally been dependent on Pakistan. And in the current scenario, the fall of Pakistan is absolutely not in the interest of America and the West. If it happens, Pakistan has always served the interests of the US and allies. So this is the past history of the US-Pakistan relations. So Pakistan alone cannot be blamed for that kind of the fundamentalism. And the religious clerics, such as so many religious clerics are there in the Pakistani politics. One prominent name is Tahirullah Qadri, and he has been the prime suspect of the military coup of 1999, leading speculation that he was fronting for the army, suspected judicial coup, majority extremism against the minority Hazara community, which led to the Pakistan taking over the government of Baluchistan. So many events happened because of this soft stance on the religious fundamentalism and the involvement of the religious leader in the affairs of the Pakistan policy, and military's close alliance with the military and ISI's close alliance with these religious leaders also give fuel to the fire. So the sectarianism in Pakistan is always high, and the tensions with India on Kashmir border, the weak position of the Pakistani state, and the frontal role of army, poor economic conditions are creating environment of instability and chaos. And the current crisis, the current religious events or these political events is a matter of concerns for not just for Pakistan, but the region and the international community at large. Since Pakistan has turbulent borders with India, and in India's new aggressive posture, I must say, when Prime Minister Modi became the Prime Minister, then India adopted a kind of a realistic policy, just changed the stance from its very neutral and ideal type of the policy. So India's new aggressive posture can result into a big disaster due to the presence of nuclear weapons with both the states. When we talk of India, then ideology and narratives are very much prominent here. Like when we talk of India, India embarked on the democratic principles and Indian democracy. India is one of the largest democracy in the world. And since India got independence, there is a swift transfer of powers from one party to the other, and there is no problem in terms of the democratic political culture. But recently in India, these are so many problems in terms of religious fundamentalism. The mistake Pakistan has committed earlier, India is also somehow in the line of those kind of the policies, though it was for the political power. But once I gave the example, the Mujahideen were created against the Soviet Union, but the same Mujahideen becomes a problem for USA also. But in the same case can happen with India also, because this fundamentalism was spread due to grabbing the power by one political party. But once these kind of the actors, they are frequently having a soft corner in the society or in terms of the institutions, then the situation can be different, not be different from Pakistan. So here I will give some examples. This Hindu nationalist movement known as Hindutva, that is very much debated issue in the academia, is rooted in the colonial period in India, that now dominating the Indian political system. The rout of Congress as a secular party and rise of BJP as the protector and promoter of Hindutva didn't left any space for opposition as for present condition is concerned. So the political parties under the charismatic leaders of PM Modi, they have dismantled all opposition in India, and there is no potential challenge for the ruling party. So the affiliates of the BJP, such as Vishwa Hindu Parishad, consisting the Hindu priests, sadhus, and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak organizations they are the core of this political party. As the most important and organized arm of the Hindutva, the RSS, which has membership of more than 10 million and has shakhas near about 55,000 and has been expanded internationally, been compared to other religious fundamentalist organizations worldwide. And when we talk of this Hindu fundamentalism, then we see that Hindutva can be seen as a reaction to Islamic forms of fundamentalism. And the establishment of the Muslim League in 1906, although it has its roots with the founding of Arya Samaj in 1875 as the Hindu revivalism, and this was also a reaction of massive conversions of Hindus to other religions happened at that time. So the RSS has given birth to a large number of organizations at various levels, and these organizations have the agenda of a Hindu nation. In contrast to the principle of Indian nationalism as outlined in the Indian Constitution, through the Ram Temple campaign and consequent rise of the violence at some places, the political progeny of RSS, the BJP and the BJP came to power for the first time in 1996, then in 1998, then in 2014, and now in 2019. And there seems no potential challenge for BJP as far as now is concerned. So most of these organizations and others are aimed for the political mobilization by using the identity of religion. They take into the account the issue of religious sentiments such as Ram Temple, Gyanvapi Mosque, Krishna Janmabhoomi, cows, glorious and superior culture of Hindus and others. So these are the things are mostly discussed by the outputs of this ruling political party. And some of the components such as nationalism, that invoking religion, race, targeting the minorities as the central enemy, ultranationalism, glorification of the past, corporate nexus and projection of the hardline Hindutva leaders. So the polarization narrative of there is a very popular narrative here when we see the circulation in various social media platforms that Hindus are in danger, Hindu khatre mein hai. So this kind of the narratives are being spread in media just to polarize one population for the purpose. But on the other hand, when we see the policy of the government, they always talk about they are with each and everybody. They belong to everyone. So this kind of the narratives, this kind of the policy is being implemented by the Prime Minister Modi. But on the other hand, these outfits on the basis of that this political party capture the power, they are having this kind of the narratives. So Hindus are in danger from whom? Obviously, the answer is Muslims. So this Muslim minority in India are badly affected by this kind of the religion-driven politics. And the recently introduced the CAA law Amendment Act, this brought widespread criticism among the Muslim community as India offered citizens to Hindu, Buddhist, Sikhs, Jains from the other neighboring countries where they are being prosecuted for so many reasons, but Muslims were excluded from that list. And there was a countrywide breakdown on protesters who spoke against the law, or they lodged in the jails, and their properties and houses were destroyed, especially in the state of Uttar Pradesh. The recent derogatory comment on Prophet Muhammad, it was a global issue recently by ruling party, sparked the controversy in India, and Muslims started protests against the comment. Although the official stand of the BJP and the Prime Minister Modi, they condemned such comment and termed the spokesperson as a fringe element. So, but after that, in UP, several homes of Muslims were destroyed and hundreds were arrested in severest section of the Indian Penal Code, including the sedition. So this is the state of affair. So in 2020, let me talk of some independent panels, what they think about the religious fundamentalism in case of India. A panel of independent international experts consisting of 3 renowned international law experts, including Sonja Bisco, Marzuki Darusman, and Stephen Rapp, launched their report on serious human rights violation against Muslims in India since 2019. So the finding of that panel is very worrisome, and there is a credible evidence of wide range of international human rights of Muslim communities have been violated by the authorities. So the finding suggests that the central and state level authorities adopted a wide range of laws, policies, and conduct that target Muslims directly or affect them disproportionately. So in relation to violation perpetrated by non-state actors, the state failed to take the necessary measures to prevent the acts, effectively investigate and prosecute them. If they have been arrested for any violence against the minority, they have been released on the bail and they came out and they welcomed as a hero. So this kind of the things, it's a common thing. So the panel further found that some of the violations may amount to the crime against humanity. It is a very heavy terms, but this is this not my observation. It is the finding of that panel. So, and the war crimes and incitement to commit genocide. So this kind of the observation by that independent panel came. And the panel stated that the killings and torture of civilians in the ongoing non-international armed conflict in Jammu and Kashmir may amount to the war crime. So this kind of the observation came from that panel. And lastly, the panel identified that a number of public speeches made by the prominent political or religious leaders in New Delhi and in MP, in Chhattisgarh, in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh between December 2019 to April 2022, calling on their audience to kill Muslims, rape Muslim women and girls, may amount the direct and public incitement to commit atrocities and boycott of their business. So this kind of the appeal made by the religious leaders or the religious saints. So according to the panel, some leaders made clear reference to the eradication of and elimination or destruction of the religious community from the nations. And this panel emphasized that such statements warrants further investigations by an independent body. Furthermore, urgent action is required to prevent a repetition of such incidents. And it is very important to mention here, the panel found that the biased steps have been taken to investigate and prosecute the perpetrators, allowing impunity to flourish. The panel called upon the UN Human Rights Council to establish an independent fact-finding body to investigate human rights violations against Muslims in India and a territorial mandate of a special rapporteur on religious minorities in India. They also called the attention of the government of India to amend the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 to remove the discriminatory provisions and to ensure effective, independent, and impartial investigation of the atrocities, among others. So lastly, the panel called upon social media companies to take the proactive steps against the hate speech and, among others, launch early warning system to protect the vulnerable minorities. So this is the state of affairs from India. Then come to the Bangladesh. Bangladesh also, after its separation from Pakistan, went on to resist the total Islamization. Still, both its major parties succumbed to the Islam in the political field. Worse radicalism, Islamic radicalism has also gained a strong hold in the country as the gap between poor and rich in the country widened and the idea of Islam being an integral part of the politics become more popular. And when we talk of Sri Lanka, after that Nepal and Maldives, let me take Sri Lanka first. The role of the radical organizations such as the extremist Buddha organizations, like there is an organization like Bodu Bala Sena in Sri Lanka, and the National Tawheed Jamaat, it's a Muslim organization. They are the root of the controversies that began in Sri Lanka for a decade, and their name appears in every dispute that is happening in Sri Lanka. So in this controversy that started from 2012, conversion of Buddhist by Muslim organizations, attack on Muslim cloth shop by Buddhist radical elements in Colombo in 2013, and 3 Muslims were killed in Gale in 2014, and the violence after the Bodu Bala Sena rally in a town in Sri Lanka in 2014. And this controversy spread, and there was a widespread violence against the Muslims by the Sinhala Buddhists, including the attack on the mosques and Muslim shops. So this kind of the events happened. So here you can say Buddhism is a religion of the peace, but here the Buddhists are also having the extremist organizations like Bodu Bala Sena. So these kind of this fundamental kind of the fervor is spreading very high in the politics of South Asia. And the recent crisis in Sri Lanka, where a series of bombing took place in 2019 that targeted churches and hotels, causing fatalities and injuries, pointed towards an act of violent extremism. And such attacks of the reported scale had not been experienced in a decade within the nation, and the several international media sources have since then claimed that according to the state authorities or the state investigations agencies, certain radical Islamic groups have been identified as preparators. And small states like Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, they lack relative capabilities to deal with such spillover effect of religious fundamentalism compared to the greater powers in South Asia like India and Pakistan. So if this spillover effect is coming, then there will be a serious implications for the South Asian security. And let me say in conclusion that this fundamentalism is a grave challenge to the democracy in many countries. Most of these countries are those which were either colonies or were under the authoritarian rule. So this is the politics wearing the cloth of religion, and it labels the democratic values, the values of secularism and equality as being Western. And it aims is either to perpetuate or promote the values of birth-based hierarchy in the modern language, irrespective of religion in whose name it asserts it is monolithic and homogenizing in its politics, picks up a particular interpretation of religion and imposes it as the interpretation of that religion. It targets the people of other religions or those from within the religion whom it labels as not followed the religion in a correct way. So it mostly harms the emotions and the material development of the society, and it is not its agenda. It does try to impose authoritarian rule or restrict the democratic freedoms. The need of distinguish morality of religion from its harping on identity issue becomes imperative. So democracy as a value must be resurrected from this type of the politics parading itself the guise of the religion. Because we have seen in case of Pakistan, these are the frequent reports that Hindus are being persecuted. In Afghanistan, Sikhs and Hindus are being persecuted. In India, so this kind of the retaliation coming to the Indian Muslims, because the discourse among this Hindu population is being spread. These Muslims are responsible for the demographic change. They are having too much. They are having too much birth rate in compared to Hindus. So this kind of the narratives are being spread. If this kind of the birth rate is going to be continue, this can be a demographic change. So this kind of the fear psycho is going to be created in the mind of the people, and so many narratives like love jihad, like land jihad, because love jihad means if the two different community people are loving each other or marrying each other, it's now a kind of the crime in India, and their homes and their physical well-being is targeted for that matter. for the cause of love. So this is because they are those groups are claiming this minority people, they are deliberately making this kind of the affairs with the Hindu population, and this is a medium of conversion. So many kinds of the things like this population issue, like and other kind of the issues. So these kind of the false narratives are being fueled in the mind of the people. So fundamentalism is becoming a grave challenge. On the other hand, when we see the policy of the governments and in all the states, where in some states these are the democratic governments. In Sri Lanka, it is in the transformative stage. In Nepal, we have seen the transformation from monarchy to democracy. They are still working on that. But when we summarize as a whole, the religious fundamentalism is a serious problem in whole South Asia region, and all communities, either they are Hindus, Muslims, they are Sikhs, they are Christians, they all are affected because of that matter. So India is having a vast majority, and India is a big power because of this kind of the problems, because this kind of the narratives, the regional organizations or the common platform for a regional security and peace is being hampered, since we have seen the fate of the SARC earlier. So SARC has been demolished because of this kind of the narratives, religion-driven politics, and this has a serious implications on the economies of the South Asia. We can see these South Asian economies are suffering badly just because of these things. We have seen the case of Sri Lanka. We are seeing the case of Pakistan, and Indian economy is not very much that welcoming with compared to the other developments. So these things are happening, and these things are also giving route to more spending on the military hardware, military infrastructure. And you can see the defense budget of India and Pakistan, for that matter, their nuclear development, for that matter. So if these kind of the things can be controlled somehow, because my fear is that we have seen the case of Pakistan, for instance. Religion is a very important component of the Pakistan's politics. If this thing persists in a largest democracy like India, then results can be different. But since Indian democracy is very much mature, and Indian population and India's level of intelligence and level of competence and level of tolerance will not allow these actors more to be to the more effect in the Indian society or South Asian society when I am comparing as a whole. So we need to eradicate this religious fundamentalism, the South Asian state, for the more prosperity. Either it will have a serious implications for the not only the security of this region, but because India, Pakistan, both are nuclear state. China is a nuclear neighbor, then Russia is in between. If this thing happens, it will spread, and the catastrophic impact the world will see will be unbelievable. Thank you very much for your patient listening. If you are having any question, observation, or something like that, you are most welcome.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Professor, for your complete presentation. Now we will have a space for questions or comments to the professor in order to make some development of the knowledge. So Dr. Lester Kurtz has raised his hand, and please turn on your microphone.
Oh, thank you. That was really an excellent presentation. Thank you so much. Asalm, really learned a lot from that. Yeah, I'll try to be brief, although it's not easy for me to be brief on this topic. It's dear to my heart. But when I think of religion and conflict, a couple of things come to my mind. And first, religion intensifies any kind of conflict, because it raises the level of conflict to a sacred level, right? So the conflict itself becomes sacred, and so the emotions get involved, and identities and so on, in a way that this sort of regular political conflict doesn't work. Secondly, I've often thought that religious symbols, religious ideas they become like lightning rods. You know, the lightning rod, the purpose of the lightning rod is to attract the lightning. So it goes to the lightning rod and travels down to the ground instead of damaging a building or persons or something. So religion becomes a lightning rod when there's a conflict, and it attracts the energy of the conflict, right? And then so fundamentalism, when you add fundamentalism to the mix, right, as you have, well, there's an affinity between fundamentalist religion and authoritarian politics, because fundamentalism itself is kind of authority-mindedness is sort of a major characteristic, intolerance and a narrowing of the traditions. So they turn their traditions on the head. And one of the best symbols I've seen of this is when a former president of the United States, I won't mention his name, left the White House and they cleared the demonstrators from the park across the street. And he went to a nearby church and held up a Bible, right? But he was holding the Bible upside down. I mean, this is a beautiful symbol of what fundamentalists do. They turn the traditions upside down. And I was reminded while you were talking about one final thing. Then I'll ask my question. When I was in India for a year, 1990, I'm dating myself here. So I was studying Gandhi's legacies. Well, while I was there, the BJP, there were these people. There's a kind of a militant wing. They were conducting these sort of training exercises. They're on the margins, and the BJP was on the rise. And I thought, well, I better talk to these people. And so I actually got L.K. Advani on the phone. He was one of the founders of the BJP, and for a while he was deputy prime minister. And I got him on the phone. I said, I'm studying Gandhi's legacies. I want to talk with you. And he said, oh, I love talking about Gandhi. He went on praising Gandhi. And I thought, oh my God, so to speak. Oh, this is really amazing that this guy is praising Gandhi. And I was really shocked. Unfortunately, we weren't able to arrange the actual interview, but I had this sort of snippet view of him from the telephone conversation. So my question is, how do these fundamentalist politicians deal with the flip side of their traditions, right? The openness, the tolerance, the love your enemies, teachings in their traditions, the emphasis on truth. What do they do with those things?
Thank you very much.
I'll mute my microphone and listen.
Okay, thank you very much. Since you raised a very important issue like identity and conflict and this symbolism, like symbolism that when you give the example of USA, let me remind here that now it has been kind of symbolism and promotion of culture in India. Whenever any head of the state is coming here, then our prime minister is also providing the holy books like Gita and Mahabharata. He is presenting them, and a lot of the things that some of the head of the states were taken to the religious sites like in Varanasi. So it is a promotion of those kind of the culture, as well as they are showing the people of India that we are the protector and promoter of those kind of the culture that you people are willing. So this kind of the things giving a vast kind of the support to those kind of the politicians. When we were talking of the L.K. Advani, then L.K. Advani was the person who gave the life to BJP. When he started his Rath Yatra, you might be remembering at the time that, and he was talking of Gandhi because his intention was that the Gandhian methodology of the peaceful resistance, like he was having a Rath Yatra peacefully throughout the country, that they want to build a Ram temple in Ayodhya. And these kind of the secular government or the secular regional governments or the central government, they are the hindrances to that effort. And he started to mobilize the people. And that was the defining moment for the BJP. And BJP got power after the demolition of Babri Mosque. And after that, this kind of this fundamental effects that came into the politics of the India, and that started weakening the Congress that was embarking on the secularism or the secular policies of India. That started right from the Gandhi to Nehru to Indira Gandhi and so on. But this project was defeated by this religious driven politics by BJP. And this symbolism is having very impactful thing in promoting or gaining the support of the masses here, or to give the freedom to those kind of the organizations to conduct such kind of the promotions or such kind of the meetings that you say you saw some training centers over there. So it is a fact that these shakhas are the part of those training centers, and the people are being trained, and their core belief is that they are working everything for the nationalism. So their nationalism is very contested terms in India. When we are talking of the democratic values, we proud as a democracy since 1947, as in India is a proud democracy, and we are having a swift transfer of power. But same time, in democracy here, this is a serious flaw that there is not a fair representation of the vulnerable group in the democracy. That it's a very old debate, not a new debate. But this is a very, the stark reality of the democracy, that how minorities or the other groups, those are subject to the racial attacks either, or this minority, that plight. So these things are happening. I very much agree with you. And this religious symbolism is there. And these politicians, how they deal with it, because you just remember the example here I gave in my presentation, that one of the ruling party's spokesperson made a derogatory comment against the Prophet Muhammad. And though she was the party spokesperson or ruling party spokesperson, she was authorized by the ruling political party. But just you mentioned the party or the government was forced to say that they are the fringe element. The same people belongs to them. So this kind of things that everybody might have read Machiavelli here, I think. So this kind of the politics is everywhere, that what people project themselves, they are not. So these kind of the things are happening in politics. Everything is fair to have power. Yeah. So this kind of the things are happening here also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Afis Siufanu has raised his hand, so please turn your Microsoft on.
Thank you. Thank you, our presenter. I really appreciate your view about Islam, about the fundamentalist, religion fundamentalist. I mean, the role of religion in politics. But you made mention of Afghanistan, Pakistan, India several times in relation and in juxtaposed with Islamic religion. And what I want to ask is that, does the Islamic religion has positive impact or negative role in the war going on in Pakistan? That's number one. Then Islamic, you said that it's religion that is of peace. If Islam is the religion of peace, what is actually the cause of the crisis in Pakistan? Is it religion crisis or a political and cultural crisis? And is Islamic religion can be a kind of factor or a kind of tools that we can use to stop this crisis, because Islamic religion proposed that la ikra fi din qad tabayyana rushd min al-ghayy. That's one of the verses of the Quran. Quran 2 verse 256 said that there is no compulsion in religion. So that is why you can see the level of tolerance in Saudi Arabia. They created some area whereby if you are not a Muslim, you can actually practice your religion within yourself. Despite the fact that Saudi Arabia is the symbol that you just talked about, that the symbol is very important, symbolizes Islamic religion. So in spite of all this, what is the role of Islam in putting a stop or ceasefire within the Pakistan? So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your very, that uncomfortable question, but I will answer. Since you said that Islam, everybody believes it, that all the religions are the religion of peace, because whenever the humanity was in crisis, then the religion was introduced. Because whenever we say that somebody is have not, that you are have not, yours is God. Okay, either this is the same concept with the Christianity, Islam, or any other religion. Buddhism is a religion of peace, Hinduism is a religion of peace, Islam is a religion of peace. So all religion preaches peace, humanity, human values. But the question here is the political use of religion. When the religion mixed with the politics, then it becomes polluted. When the pollution came into the religion, then they craft their strategy according to their own interest, the state or the leaders, whatever those are. The second use says that this religion is a political tool in Pakistan, because when this Pakistan got defeat from India in 1971, that leadership was blamed that since you didn't follow the rituals of the Quran, that's why this defeat came to the Pakistan. So this was the blame. After that, Ziaul Haq institutionalized the Islamization in Pakistan, and that too have the political designs that was supported by the United States of America at that time, same time the Soviet invasion, and also so many factors were there. So religion is very pure thing. Religion preaches peace. Religion talks of humanity. But when you mix it with the religion or your own vested interest, then it becomes something different. Okay, I don't have any problem with any religion. Nobody can have any problem with any religion. But why these were the religious wars? Even within the religion, these were the religious war among the various Christian sects, various Muslim sects. Muslims are also fighting like Shias and Sunnis and all. The sectarian divide is there among the religion. Even in one religion, these are so many sectors, they are fighting for the dominance with each other. So this is the different thing. They are also having their vested interest, and they try to impose that whatever they are practicing is superior. And this is the correct, this is the fact, and the others, they are doing something wrong. So this kind of the narratives being spread. But whatever the God or the messenger of the God said, they came here to safeguard the humanities, for the poor, for the have-nots. So this is the religion perspective. When you mix with the religion with the politics, then the scenario becomes different. That is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you again, Professor. And now Janet has raised her hand, so please turn your microphone.
Thank you. Thank you. What a rich and illuminating, informative, scholarly presentation. Thank you so much. I really got a very good perspective on so much information from the way you presented, and I'm grateful for that. I think the three questions so far, including the one I'm about to ask, are all focusing on the same thing, that religions teach have many parts to them, and using them to homogenize and politicize and even militarize populations are against the teachings that are so powerful. And you could even say that about democracy. The United States says, we're spreading democracy across the world, and they're militarizing democracy and weaponizing it in the same way as political power. And I was also struck by I think you helped me understand how people in the United States arguing for political power are turning the Constitution into a Bible, into a sacred text that you cannot question. And the processes that are being demised by this process are thinking, diversity, plurality, arguing public deliberation to further learning, inclusion, and satisfying the population. And the moral dimensions are, it's not morality, like in the 10 Commandments, the morality are things that are named, do this, don't do this. but thinking of morality as the social fabric that we negotiate all the time from a democratic peace perspective would be to integrate and satisfy the needs of the population and take care the best we can of the most needs of the most people. So I really appreciate this idea of narrowing that you're pointing out. And so as people working on peace and as scholars, we try to teach thinking and learning and discussion. And so in relation to that, there's a rise among the peace educators and peace learners that I was just with, the idea that in Nepal in 2 years, the topic will be spirituality. But I don't know how, because of the holism and the idea of ecological thinking, how would you recommend we talk about the idea of this ecological, actually social moral dimension of spirituality in relation to the misuse of religion for power and domination and militarization?
Thank you very much. Since
Thank you.
You're very much right to raise the question of morality. When we talk of morality, morality is a very contested term, and morality has no meaning in international politics either, or in the politics of a state. Because when we talk of the interest only, if we see two important countries I will mention here: United Kingdom, Great Britain, and United States of America. You see, at that time when there was colonization of India by the Britishers, then they are having different democratic norms in their own country, but where they were having colonies, there was a different treatment with the people. There was that, so you can better understand what I mean to say. Same is the case of the United States of America. Here the question comes that when we talk of the morality, and a lot of the debates are there in terms of the responsible powers, axis of evil, and a lot of the things, a lot of the terms invented by United States of America. My question is here that who is responsible? The nation who has dropped the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki is more responsible than the North Korea, who never used the nuclear weapon, who was only testing? One. And whole of this Middle East, destruction of the Middle East, I must say, because of the Arab division, that US took advantage for their own economy. They don't have any problem with the totalitarian state. They don't have any problem with monarchies. They have no project of democracy for those nations, because what they are contributing to the economy, that is important. Here interest comes, no morality. Take the case of New York Times, what was his name? Khagoshi. He was a US citizen. He was killed inside the embassy. And what kind of the relation US has presently with the Saudi Arabia, everybody knows. What are the reasons and what are the compulsions? We all know. So these reasons, compulsions, and interest, actually, they vanish all these humanitarian values, morality, whatever it is. Because this morality, spirituality, these are the very sacred terms. When anybody is hungry, you are giving food, you are doing a very humble work, and God will be happy because you are feeding to the subject of God. So everybody is subject to the God. That's a different thing. But same thing that you are doing a carpet bombing on some state, either you don't have the approval of the United Nations that you create, that was created for safeguarding the succeeding generations from the scourge of war, and in the name of the weapons of mass destruction that were found, you destroyed one country, and whatever the government was there, whatever the political system was there, they were very much happy and prosperous. Even those kind of the ISIS and other organizations were not emerged at that time when President Saddam Hussein was ruling there. And you just destroyed the communities, livelihoods, people, and you see the large scale of the migration, how the people's plight. Who is responsible for that matter? Either the promoter of the democracy and the champions of the human rights, or those people itself, the people who are defending their lands. So terrorism is also very contested term. So many things are there, but the morality has no meaning either in the international politics, domestic politics, or the party politics. Your interest is very much important. So when we talk of we as a peace researcher, how it can be come into the ecological, social, and moral diversity. So the onus is now on the people of those particular states, how they value these things. If you are going to value these things, you are selecting your politicians, or your politicians manifesto is based on those kind of the values, then it is okay. But here now the manifesto or this political battleground is of the racism, this right versus left, and something like that. When you are having this kind of the approach in selecting your leadership, then you should not expect the morality or this kind of the ecological or social kind of, that transformation, kind of utopian society, I must say here. You can't get, nobody can get. Same, India is the largest democracy. Whenever election happens, the election comes on the religious grounds, polarity. So polarization is there. So when you talk of development, for example, people are asking of employment. There is a massive poverty in South Asia, even in India. But when you are selecting your leadership based on those particular agendas that this community is danger against other, then you have no moral right to ask the government, because they know what you want. What is your food? What is your dose they want? According to that, they work. So this system is working on that. So saying so that every nation, they are talking of morality, they are talking of, that I gave the example of the United Kingdom of that time. They were having a different treatment with the colonies, and they are having a different kind of a treatment in the United Kingdom that time. So this is a double standard. Again, with the USA, there is double standard. These are the countries who are controlling the affairs of the world. Nobody can move without their will. When Imran Khan of Pakistan, I must mention here, who little bit deviated from the US dictates, and he faced so many problems. Country was in the gray list. Now it will come out gray list. I know very soon it will come out from the gray list. Okay, because this government is very much prone and very much, that following the dictate of their masters. So everything will be all right. So these kind of the things are happening everywhere, and these big powers are having a satellite state, and beyond their, if any state is having their independent foreign policy or independent foreign policy goes, they can't be allowed for that matter. Either they will be replaced, they shall be toppled, or they shall be killed. So these kind of the things are happening everywhere. So we as a citizen of the world, we have the moral responsibility to keep momentum of this movement, so that lasting peace or the utopian peace that can arise, where human pains and gains, those are same, can be respected by each other. That is the only solution. And this people-to-people contact, this transnational, that networking of this peace research and the peace trainings, and we have to fuel the mind of the people, that we as a human being having some kind of the moral responsibility for the society, responsibility for the environment. So we are talking of environment. So many meetings are happening every day. United Nations, so many debate and discussions are, resolutions are there. But you see the state of the nuclear disarmament in the modern time. You see the other kind of the weaponization in the modern time. Large manufacturing of the weapons are being spreaded to the whole world. So this is the scenario. So we people have the responsibility, onus on us to change these things. Thank you very much.
May I just add, thank you. That was an extraordinary answer. And I especially like the way you captured the onus is on us, the people. I just have two questions for clarification. One is, what is the name of the commission that you mentioned? I think it was on Kashmir. The name of the commission with making recommendations for further research. One question, and the other question before I put on my mute is, do you have a book where you yourself have written about what you're explaining now? Because I see it would be very valuable to read and learn more from.
No problem. I am going to contribute this as a chapter in the book. I think a book will be published by Springer. So I am going to contribute this whole article into that edited volume. So everybody might have access of that. In the meantime, I will prepare a draft of this article, so I can send you on the email. And first question, that first thing I forgot what you asked.
You just thank you.
Yeah, that commission. Yeah, that commission.
Yes.
Yeah, that was in 2022. It was a panel of independent international expert panel that were consisting the 3 renowned international law experts. Those were, one was the Sonja Bisarko, then that was Marzuki Darusman and Stephen Rapp. These were the 3 international law experts. They launched their report, and that report that I have gone through, I will text you, or I will send you, since we are connected with emails and so many social media platforms. So I can send that report to you, full report, the finding of that report. Thank you.
Okay, so in the chat there are 2 questions from Ronald Kinjimba, and the first one is on religion and politics, which is the mother of the other, and the second is who qualifies religious leaders and politicians, and what parameters do they consider? Thank you, Professor.
Okay, let me read this question first, where it is.
Okay. Sorry, could you say it again?
I couldn't get you well.
Okay. So the first one is on religion and politics, which is the mother of the other. Who comes first? And then who qualifies religious leaders and politicians, and what parameters do they consider?
Okay, when the question comes in the between religion and politics, which come first? Then I must say religion come first when there was a state of nature. Then from the state of nature, that man was discovering that what source of the things are for the survival. Because when you take the example of Indian subcontinent, for instance, then in Hinduism, they worship water, they worship sun, they worship rain. So everything they worship plant. So this kind of the worship, actually, they saw there is something natural power is there, supernatural power is there, that is creating each and everything. So this was this is the consideration of the human mind of that time, that these supernatural power is conducting the affairs of the whole planet. So religion, I must say here, the religion introduced first. Then when it comes to the politics, because you see whole this European wars against the dominance between the church and the state, then again there was a problem. So when every religion or religious text you will see, then you will find the God created man. So when the God created man, even Adam in Christianity, then Adam in Islam also, because in Abrahamic religion there is no problem who came first. But in Hinduism also, there is a belief that Brahma means the expanded one. The Brahma created this whole universe. So in every faith that we are seeing in the present time, they are having a common belief that there is a one supernatural power that created whole universe. So there is no confusion, I think, in this regard, that who came first, religion or politics. Then the politics came. Okay, politics came just for the issue of territory and other so many things, that because they took religion as a boost, that we as a people of those Adam or whatever the messenger or they were following, that we need to fight our own. So they were fighting with each other, and religion came into the politics, and this came as a state religion in some of the places. So religion came first. And secondly, you asked that second, I missed, please can you repeat the second one?
Yes, with me. The second one, this says, who qualifies religious leaders and politicians, and what parameters do they consider?
The qualification of the religious leaders who are very much conversant with the knowledge of the religion, and those leaders, when they are having huge followings and their area expands further and too much, then they see that they are having a large following. And those kind of the leaders, they are kind of the pressure group for the government, or they can enter into the politics later on. So they are very much qualified for that matter. And if we see the connection of this religious leader with the political establishment, we can take the example of Iran, for instance. We can take the example of Saudi Arabia, for instance. So these are the so many examples before us. Anything else, please?
Okay, then we will continue with another question from the chat. And then I can give you the microphone, Elysium Nazaiko. But please, we will first ask the question.
No problem, no problem. I am ready to face bouncers.
Good to say that the main cause of the lingering conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir and the Prince Will of Jammu is essentially as a result of religion. The Olugaf Adekola says, you will recall that Pakistan claimed the region ought to belong to her, being an area largely populated by Muslims, on the account that Pakistan is an Islamic state, unlike India is a multi-faith state.
Yeah, I do agree that India is a multi-faith state. India is a cultural capital of the world. So many religions, so many cultures, so many languages are being spoken in India, and people are living peacefully. That I gave you example prior in my presentation that Pakistan used religion after the war of 1971 and institutionalized it. But India, same was not the case. India never institutionalized the religion in the politics officially. Whatever the motives of the political leaders to acquire power, that is a different case. It is a different issue. But it was not institutionalized in India, and still we are having a secular constitution, and we are having a strong democratic values and a strong democratic political culture. We are having a strong federalism in India, where everybody is being represented. But in the case of Pakistan, and you raise the issue of the Kashmir actually, when India and Pakistan were divided, then it was an issue of the plebiscite that the people having some of the states where people are with the Hindu majority, but there was a Muslim ruler. Vice versa, the case was that there was a Hindu ruler and the Muslim population. So in these states were the Junagadh state and Hyderabad and Kashmir. So in both the places, in Junagadh and Hyderabad, these were the Muslim rulers, and mostly the majority of the population were Hindus. Then this by the plebiscite, these two states, they came with India. But in the case of the Kashmir, when there were the Muslim population and Hindu ruler Raja Hari Singh, and there was a mess there that he write a letter to then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru for help, because he was having some kind of the fear. And later on, India sent army, and the Kashmir was a divided territory, some part with India, some part with the Pakistan. And the matter went to the United Nations later on, but no such solution because of the importance of the India. Because I am saying that these kind of the issues, if these are going to be solved, then this interventionist state, those are having interventions in all part of the world. Because these, if we see the problem of the Palestine, for instance, if we see the problem of the Kashmir, these can be very easy solved by a peaceful manner or the negotiations, if the responsible powers of the responsible states or the so-called the responsible leaders of the world, if they want it, but they really don't want it. So this problem is persisting just because of the intervention or interventionist policies. And since I told you that when these Mujahideens were created for against the Soviet Union, then the same Mujahideens were used in Indian Kashmir. So this kind of the problem is persisting since then. Even General Musharraf, though he was a military ruler, he tries his best with Prime Minister Vajpayee to solve the issue. But again, those masters sitting outside, they didn't want to solve that issue, and again problem happened. So this issue is all political. They want intervention because this is a phase of the new colonialism. Though countries are free, they are claiming themselves they are free, but they are not free from the clutches of those so-called colonial powers. They were having their influence earlier. And now you see the importance of India in the contemporary world. Then India is a country that nobody can ignore now. Keeping a view on the geopolitical situation of South Asia, the emergence of China, and so many disputed territories that US is having interest. So India is a key component and a key country in the whole world politics. You can see India's inclusion in Quad and other kind, recently IU with Arabs. So this kind of the things are happening. So nobody can ignore India's interest now. So that was the problem with the Pakistan when India becomes so powerful at the international stage and India's importance gaining movement, and India and USA become the strategic partners. Then the problem start coming in the Pakistan, and the cause of the terrorism, though so many states are responsible for that matter, the blame was put on Pakistan only. So Pakistan is not only responsible for this kind of the terrorism, because everybody knows who started terrorism as a state policy, who created terrorism against what. So this kind of the things are happening. So Pakistan not to blame only. So India's important growing importance in the world politics, nobody can ignore India's interest. Either it is Kashmir issue, and either it's a membership of the United Nations Security Council. So a lot of the things India is having a kind of pressure on the West also, because West badly need India to counter the communist powers in the region. That is my answer.
Thank you very much, Professor. And now, Eliseo Nazaiko, if you want, you can ask your question or say your comment.
All right. Thank you very much, Clara. And I would like also to thank you, Professor Asalm, for the presentation, very wonderful presentation and the enlightenment. I have two questions based on your presentation, which I love very much, about fundamentalism. And my first question is, I would like to know, how does religious fundamentalism manifests itself? Is it like religion used to complain the rights of the less privileged or the most oppressed people, most oppressed, the poorest people? Is it a kind of a complaint of the rights in favor of the poor, or it's just for the sake of itself, for the sake of the principles that it defends? This is the first question. And the second question, it comes from what I was thinking along the presentation from Professor Asalm. I was trying to understand if I can compare the religious fundamentalism you talked about with political fundamentalism that we experience on this side. I understand, as Professor described, the religious fundamentalism there. It seems this could be the problem that mostly societies in East Asia suffer most. While on our side here, I'm talking from Mozambique, in Africa, Southern Africa, what we see as one of the biggest problems is political fundamentalism. And in most of the webinars, and the presenters in these webinars have taught us that non-violence morality was a kind of an answer to most of the conflicts that the world is facing. So I would like to ask Professor Asalm if non-violence morality could be an appropriate answer to either religious fundamentalism or political fundamentalism, and how can we go through that way? How can we do? Can non-violence morality can really be a privileged answer to this kind of violence. And thank you very much.
Okay, so your first question was is the how how the religious fundamentalism manifests. Is it right as religion as a right? This religious fundamentalism, when we are talking about, then the people are told that you people are you people are having this. You are in the majority. You are following this religion, and your interest and your concerns are not being addressed by that particular party or particular agency or the particular institution who is governing a particular state. So when the question comes that, then they take religion as a right because you are having a right as a religious majority. Then the other minority living in a country that they has to follow the dictate made by the majority. So the same thing is happening. So religion, they took religion as a right. It's an important thing. It's a true. Then the second is that you are talking of the non-violent morality. So it is a very good idea, a counter to this religious fundamentalism or political fundamentalism you were talking about. But since this is also very soft word, very beautiful word in saying that we are talking of the non-violent morality. But I told you that morality is a very contested term, and this non-violence, since we are seeing this non-violent morality and so many modern movements, we are having the footprints of this non-violence and this non-violent morality in several areas of the world, and Gandhi was the champion for that matter of this. Gandhian non-violence is very much prominent here but in the land of Gandhi itself, these are serious problems. So can you imagine where Gandhi, Buddhas, and these kind of the peace leaders, they talk of the morality, they talk of the humanity, then in that particular country there is a crisis. Then you can imagine the affair of the others. And this non-violent morality is a very good answer to that. But how to manifest, I am not expert of that. I have no idea how to do this, frankly speaking. But this is a very good alternate for that matter.
Thank you, Professor. I think that we are running out of time, so we can have another question or comment, and then we conclude today's meeting. So I don't know if anyone has. Abhay Brikam Singh, you can turn your microphone on.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, very much.
Okay. So it's a nice presentation, Professor Asalm Kahan sir. Sir, my question is, as we see that religious fundamentalism believes in the superiority of their religious techniques or teachings, but closely looking into it, we can make an observation that the major role played here is by the men only. So the woman participation is, I can say, it's low or none at all. So why is it that? Is that because women have to, just to take care of the household, especially in this South Asian nation environment, we can say that, or it is that simply because women are more smarter and they don't want to indulge in this kind of approach. So what's your observation in this? Because in my opinion, now it's the time to hand over all these fundamentalism. It's not very correct to all of us. So is the time that women can take over this kind of things? So what's your opinion?
Thank you very much. You brought a new dimension to the discourse. Thank you very much. Since you are talking the role of the women in South Asia, when I am talking of this political issue, then we had the leaders of like Indira Gandhi. We are having Sheikh Hasina in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, this Bhandar Naike or something. I am forgetting. I am not. I may be confusing the name, but Bhandar Naike, I think she was the women president. Then we have seen in Pakistan Benazir Bhutto. So many women that we have seen, and if you will scrutinize their role, they too were having same kind of the orientation the other male rulers are having in those particular countries. So having said that women have having only having the household responsibility or not politically very much activated, there is a soft disagreement with you. But since as far as my understanding concerned, in South Asia, the women has played a very prominent role. They have become the head of the states, and they were having the responsibility of the whole state. So having said, this is something that is not very much that in agreement with me. So I think women are having very proactive roles. Even in, we can see here, finance minister in India and other places, the young foreign minister of Pakistan, previous foreign minister. So many women playing very prominent role, and they are given role. Even we are having the reservation of the women in parliament also. So having so, I think it's the exact answer to your question.
Okay, Ronald, you raised your hand, so you can ask the last question. And we can't listen to you. I don't know. You can listen to us. Can you listen to us first? Perhaps you can type your question, or you can send an email to the professor if you allow this, Professor.
No problem. Anybody is having any concern, my email, anybody can get, and anybody can have, we can have conversation, because this is what academic works. So I would be very much happy if some kind of the new things I can learn, or some kind of the concern I can know.
If you can write it in the chat. If,
okay, I am writing in the chat box. Where is it? Chat, okay. I am giving my personal email, so there will be no problem. So I am having one official also. I think everyone got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
So we conclude our presentation for today. Thank you, Professor, again, and thanks all the participants here in the Zoom session and in the streaming at YouTube. And we will see us in the next Zoom meeting. And sorry for my English, I am a little bit nervous. So
you are having very good English. You are very much conversant in English. No issue. We all can understand you.
Okay, thank you.
Don't be demoralized. You keep your spirit high. You are the best.
Thank you. It's nice to hear it from you. So we will see you next Wednesday, and it will be managed by George. So see you.
My thank you and regards to everyone. Have a nice time.